Parents who neglected me my whole life demand $100,000 for good upbringing. Typing this feels like letting out a breath I've been holding for years. I'm 24, the youngest of three, Jake, male 30, and Laura, female 28. We grew up in a small town outside Dallas, Texas. My parents were distant, to put it mildly. It wasn't just emotional neglect. They barely noticed me unless it was to criticize. Everything revolved around my siblings. Jake was the golden boy, excelling in football and business school, while Laura was their perfect daughter, always on the honor roll, always in control. Me? I was just the artsy one. I was the kid who drew in the margins of my notebooks instead of paying attention to math. My grades were fine, never failing, but not straight A's like my siblings. When I told my parents I wanted to pursue graphic design, they just shrugged. Not a word of encouragement, not even an acknowledgement that it made me happy. My relationship with them was like walking on eggshells. They'd criticize me for wasting time when I spent hours on my sketches, but when I tried to fit into their mold, it was never good enough. My dad especially was harsh. He'd call me lazy for not working harder, while my mom stood by silently, never standing up for me. Every now and then, she'd chime in to say I needed to get real and focus on things that matter. By the time I turned 16, I was working part-time at a grocery store, saving every cent I could. My parents didn't help with anything, not for a car, not for college, not even for basic expenses. Yet, my dad insisted I give him half my paycheck every month to cover household expenses. Meanwhile, my brother and sister went to private colleges on my parents' dime, with full financial support. I knew I'd be on my own. I managed to get a small scholarship and put myself through a community college for 2 years before transferring to a design school. I did everything myself: tuition, rent, groceries. I never asked them for anything. They never offered. Then came the breaking point. One night, I overheard a conversation between my parents. They were discussing me like a business deal gone wrong, how they had invested so much in raising me, and how I owed them for all the years of food and shelter they provided. My father even went as far as calculating what they believed I owed them. The number? $100,000. It's been years since I left their house, and I was under the impression we were all just quietly living our separate lives. But now they were demanding money they never spent on me. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. Fast forward a few months later, and I received an email from my dad. He was serious. They wanted $100,000 for what they called reimbursement for my upbringing, claiming they had sacrificed so much for me, and it was time I repaid them. They gave me 60 days to pay up, or they'd take me to court. I sat there, stunned. I had no words. I called my best friend Mia, who's been my rock since we were kids. She's been through it all with me, witnessing the neglect and emotional abuse. When I told her about the demand, she was furious. She suggested I cut them off completely, something I had always hesitated to do because, despite everything, they were still my parents. But this was too much. With Mia's help, I've decided to leave. I've been saving for years, and I'm moving to Seattle. I found a remote design job that pays well enough to live comfortably. I'll leave Texas behind for good. I packed my things today, just the essentials, and booked a one-way ticket. My flight is in the morning. I won't tell them where I'm going. I won't be reachable. I'm taking my laptop and important documents, and Mia's keeping a few of my personal things until I'm settled. I'm terrified they'll try to track me down, but I've cut off every connection. I'm ready to disappear. Update 1. I'm writing this from my new apartment in Seattle, and it still feels surreal. The air is fresher here, and I feel like I can breathe for the first time in years. I'm slowly settling in, though it's been overwhelming. The first few nights I kept looking over my shoulder, half expecting to see my parents, or at least an email demanding I come back. The job is going well. It's only been a week, but I feel like I've finally found my place, doing what I love. And Seattle is beautiful. Mia came out to visit last weekend and helped me decorate the apartment. It's small, but it's mine. As for my parents, they've tried to reach out, but I've blocked their emails and phone numbers. The last message I saw from my dad said something like, "We'll get what's owed to us, one way or another." I haven't looked since. The peace I feel here is worth everything. Update 2. It's been a month, and I've received a letter. They're serious about taking me to court over the $100,000. I've spoken to a lawyer, and thankfully, the case is ridiculous. My parents never financially supported me after I started working at 16, and they certainly didn't pay for my college. Still, the fact that they'd go this far baffles me. It's hard, but I've made up my mind. I'm staying away, cutting ties for good. No one should have to pay for their childhood, especially when love and support were never part of the equation. Seattle is my home now. I'm making new friends and building a life that's mine, free from the weight of their expectations. I'm not sure what the future holds, but for the first time in my life, I feel free.